So to me, the darkest side of Thailand is. Hi, welcome to The Real Thailander. In this episode, it's Halloween special, and I would like to discuss something that is a bit darker and a bit more serious. And that is the darkest side of Thailand. So, what is the darkest side of Thailand? Well, I think that you might not be aware of this yet because whenever you see someone talking about the good sides and the bad sides of Thailand, especially on social media, I think most of the comments are quite superficial. Like the other day, I was watching this British man suggesting that the people in the West should be as respectful to one another as Thais do. Do I agree with that? Yeah, to a certain point, but I also disagree with that in a lot of part as well. But I understand why people would only feature the lighter side or the best face forward for Thailand because when you are talking about a country as fragile as Thailand, there's a lot of risk. If you don't have the citizenship, then you might get kicked out of the country for saying something wrong. The defamation law is also very strong in Thailand. So there's a scenario where you get sued. Having said that, I'm a Thai citizen here, and of course, I risk being sued, but I think it's been such a long time coming for me not to say this. So that's why I would like to tell you a story that would show you what I think is the darkest side of Thailand. So to me, the darkest side of Thailand is the lack of the concept of equality. What do I mean by that? Well, let me tell you the story. About 15 years ago, I was hired by someone, a foreign individual. She was a school teacher. She was fired from a school, and the dispute of her being fired is around her leave days. So basically she requests for leaves, and then the school said that they hadn't received that, or that she just took leaves without any legitimate claim. Anyway, I'm not here to suggest who should win the case, but the case has been put to a trial. So we went to this institution. Sorry, I can't really name where that is because of the defamation law. That's one of the things that is the dark side of Thailand, I think, like the fact that you can say so much. Anyway, back to the story. So I went with her and her lawyer as a translator. I was a law student at the time, and she couldn't speak Thai. Well, anyway, when we went, there was a lot of questions and answers. I would do the translation from the lawyer to her, and then relate it to the judge of the institution, because the judge of the institution couldn't speak English. And from time to time, the other party, the other side, would ask me to retranslate again. I mean, it's normal because sometimes you mistranslated things, or sometimes I over-translated things unintentionally. So they asked me to repeat, and after I repeated, then there was no problem. Up until the point where we started to have this argument about this specific clause in the contract between the school and the plaintiff, my client. And in this clause, it's written in English, and it's written along the line of the request for the leave days should not be withheld unless there's a good reason. It's along the line of this. So basically this clause means that whenever someone asks for leaves, then they should have the rights to get the leaves unless there is a reasonable reason to not give the leaves. Having said that, the other party which brought this clause up said to the judge of the institution that this clause, the leave request shouldn't be withheld. He said to the judge that this means that a teacher in the school should not ask for leaves without any good reason. So basically, he interpreted this clause in the opposite way, in the way that would work for the school, and in the way that he revokes the rights to request for leaves from the staff. And I was like, oh, this was a wrong translation. So I told my lawyer. So my lawyer made the objection, and then I said to the judge of the institution that that translation is the opposite to what it should have been. And then the judge of the institution looked at me and said to me, "Who are you? You are just a student. He's the dean, he's the founder of the school, he's got PhD, he studied abroad. Who are you?" And at that point I realized that this wasn't professional at all, first of all. And then I realized that fairness and rules of laws in Thailand has so much, like so many loopholes to it. Like, how can I trust this system anymore, you know? And at that point I realized, like, this isn't the first time that this happened. There's so many circumstances in the past where things would happen to make me realize that in Thailand, if you are in the better social status, if you have more money, if you have better affluence, if you know the person that you are dealing with better, then you can always distort the story in your favor. And it would be very easy for you to be let loose from your wrongdoings whatsoever. There were so many cases in the past of people who were, I think in Thailand we'll call them haiso, and that means people from the high social status that have money, who would commit a hit and run crime, and it would be big news for just a little bit, and then these people would just end up living abroad, and a few years after they would be back in Thailand. People would just forget about it. Well, people didn't really forget about it, but I think people just couldn't do anything with it. So living in Thailand, I think there is always this impression that, right, I have to say this though, that I feel very safe in this country, and I think this is probably one of the safest country in the world when it comes to just doing your own thing, living your own lifestyle. But when it comes to having conflict, like when something really happened, I think that's when the dark side come out, that when you realize that maybe you're not safe after all. So you are safe 95% of the time until you have to confront people that have more power than you, then you realize that no, you're not really safe. And I know that this is not specific to Thailand, but I think in Thailand you notice this even more, and the fact that the judge of the institution said to me, "Who are you?" I think that was not subtle at all. That was an act of showing that when you have power, then you can do anything. The lack of equality. And if I want to go a bit deeper, I think this lack of equality comes from the fact that Thailand is such a socially hierarchical society. So there's hierarchy everywhere in the society. So the examples that I was giving earlier is how you got by when you made mistakes, when you have money, when you have affluence. More than that, there's also the age hierarchy as the basis for the hierarchy in Thailand. So in Thailand, like in English, the pronouns that you use will be I and you, and no matter who you are talking to, it always be I and you. In Thailand, the pronouns, it's not fixated. The pronouns used would change every time you talk about someone or something based on their statuses. So in Thailand, when it comes to talking to someone who is older than you, then you have to give the pronouns to show the respect to that person. But on top of the age hierarchy, there is also the power or the social status hierarchy. Let me give you another example. So my mom was a nurse when she was working. Now she's retired. And I remember a lot of stories about her feeling like, comparing to doctors, she was looked down on by the doctors. And one of the funny stories is this, when some of the doctors were interns, so they were interns, they were not doctors yet, and they were younger than my mom, they would showing a lot of respect to her, they would why her and being nice to her. And then when the intern became like full-on doctors, then the dynamic changed, and I think it shocked my mom a little bit that some of the doctors here would stop greetings her first. Now it's almost like her role to be the one to inflict the greetings, like she had to be the one who greet them first. I also had this experience by myself. So every time when I saw doctors in Thailand, so doctors in Thailand hold such high status, it's a very desirable profession. So every time you become doctors, it's like you achieve such success in your life and your status in the society has just been upgraded. So every time I was sick and I went to see a doctor, I had this impression that sometimes the doctors were not very perceptive to my story, act as if they were patronizing the patients a little bit. Sometimes they would ask you like, so what's your problem? And then you say 2 lines like that. That's enough. I understood what you meant. I'll just give this to you and then yeah, you can leave. And I know that a lot of patients not only pay for the doctors and the hospital, but also like bring gifts or bring fruit. So it's almost like we owe these doctors for helping us fix our health or something. Not all of the doctors are like this, and I think like the younger the doctors, usually the more open and willing. Like the willingness to talk to the patients will be a bit more. But I think when it comes to doctors who are older or definitely older than you, I think sometimes you feel like you have to beg them to treat you. And then one day I was traveling in the Netherlands and I got sick in Amsterdam. I went to a medical center at the Schiphol airport. And I remember the first thing when the doctor came in was to push his hand out and then shook my hand. And then I was like, no way, this is another world. I'm not saying that one world is better than the other, but then I realized that this is the model of the society where equality is practiced. I think in Thailand, that equality, the concept of equality, is not practiced fully, simply because the concept of social hierarchy is so strong. A big disclaimer after I've been telling you all this. I don't want to get sued, and I realize that it's like I'm talking shit of the Thai society right now, but what I want to bring the light into is the fact that I think there's only darkness because there's a source of light to begin with. So there's a light, there's an object, and there's a darkness. So within the fact that there's no real equality, in my opinion, and with the fact that there's social hierarchy, I think there's also a lot of good things about Thailand and about social hierarchy as well. It really helps govern the society. It really makes the society more peaceful and docile to live in. Just imagine, well, I've been to the US a few times, and sometimes, when you walk on the street, you have this sense that danger could come upon you at any point. In Thailand, you don't have that, and I couldn't help but wonder that our social hierarchy had the influence in making our society safe this way, like it's like the society was pulled together by some sort of sense of hierarchy, and people know where they are, where they should be in the society. So yeah, that's my point. I hope that people don't take this the wrong way, because after all, this is the country that I was born and raised and love. But I think in order to love a place or someone, you need to be able to identify the good, but also know the bad and accept it. Because if you only talk about the good and that you can't talk about the bad, I would think that that is infatuation. I think real love is based on love, understanding of the flaws, and acceptance. So yeah, that's my point for this video. This episode has been very different from my last episode. So if you've listened this far, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You might want to click the like button and click the bell button as well, so you get to get notified when there's a new video coming out. And please let me know if you like more of the content like this, more thoughtful, or if you like more of the content that is more fun and easygoing, or if you like the combination of both. I'm willing to take a look into your comments, and yeah, I really appreciate you watching this episode. Thank you so much.